5 words. Can we eat with you? That was all it took to shatter a single father's world in the middle of a crowded diner on an ordinary Wednesday evening. It was October of 2019 at the Riverside Family Diner, the kind of place that always smelled like coffee and grilled onions and served the same menu it had for 20 years. The booth seats were held together with duct tape, and the sun poured through the windows in warm gold. Corbin Dean sat at his usual table with his 5-year-old son, Rory. Every Wednesday at 6, they came here for the same meal. Rory chattered beside him, explaining a picture he'd drawn at school. A house with a purple sky, because purple skies were prettier than blue ones, and he'd drawn Biscuit the cat in the yard even though she never went outside. Corbin smiled, listening to his son's excited rambling, grateful for these quiet rituals that had kept them steady after the loss of Rory's mother 3 years earlier. He had just opened his menu when he felt a small tug on his sleeve. He turned, and froze. 2 little girls stood beside his table. They looked about 5 years old, twins maybe, tiny and trembling with tangled brown hair and bare, muddy feet. Their matching pink dresses were dirty and torn, and their eyes were hollow in a way no child should ever be. The taller one looked up at him and whispered, her voice cracked and shaking, "Can we eat with you?" The words hit Corbin like a punch. Before he could respond, a sharp voice cut through the diner. "Hey! How did you two get in here?" Brenda Hollister, the diner's no-nonsense owner, stormed across the floor. She reached for the girls angrily. "This isn't a shelter. You can't just wander in here begging. Out, both of you." The smaller girl whimpered and clung to her sister's dress. The braver one flinched but didn't step back. She just kept staring at Corbin, pleading silently. Something in him snapped to life. "Don't touch her," he said. Standing. His voice was calm but carried an authority that forced Brenda to stop in her tracks. "Warren, these kids," she started. "These kids are hungry," Corbin said firmly. "Look at them. Really look." Brenda hesitated. For a moment, her hardened expression flickered. "They asked if they could eat with us," Corbin said. "And the answer is yes." He crouched down to the girl's level, seeing the cracked lips, the cuts on their feet, the smell of sweat and fear. "Of course you can eat with us," he said softly. "Come sit down. You're safe now." Tears slid down the brave girl's face as the two slipped into the booth across from Rory. Brenda eventually walked away, grumbling, but when she returned with warm milk for the girls, she didn't charge for it. Rory stared at them with big, curious eyes. He was usually shy, but something about these girls reached him. "I'm Rory," he said quietly. "That's my dad." The brave girl managed a tiny smile. When Rory pushed his French fries toward her, offering to share, she looked at them like they were treasure. Corbin ordered food, grilled cheese, tomato soup, hot chocolate, and then asked their names. "I'm Juliet," the brave one whispered. "That's my sister, Joy." "How old are you?" 5. "We're twins." "Where are your parents?" Juliet's face crumpled as she whispered, "Our mama died. We don't have anybody." Rory reached over and touched Juliet's hand. "It's okay," he said. "My mommy died too. But my dad takes really good care of me." Something flickered in Juliet's eyes. A fragile kind of hope. The food arrived, and the girls ate like they hadn't seen a meal in days. Juliet ate slowly, savoring every bite. Joy ate fast, glancing around fearfully like someone might take it away. Corbin's heart ached. Something was terribly wrong. "Juliet," he asked gently, "where did you come from tonight?" "We walked," she whispered. "From where?" "I don't know the address." "It was far." "Who were you with?" "A lady," Juliet said, her voice trembling. "She was supposed to take care of us. But she locked us in our room because I cried about Mama." Joy opened the window. "We climbed out and walked until we saw the lights." Corbin felt rage rise in him. Why didn't you go to the police? People don't help kids like us, Juliet whispered. They send us back. Or somewhere worse. But, you looked nice. You looked like how Mama said daddies were supposed to look. The words broke him. Rory tugged his arm. Dad, can they stay with us? Corbin wanted nothing more than to say yes. But he knew he had to do the right thing. I need to make a phone call, he said. But I promise I will make sure you're safe. He walked to the front of the diner, hands shaking, and dialed 911. I need social services, he said. I have 2 children here. They need help. A social worker named Ruth Ramos arrived. She listened to Juliet's story with gentle patience. Joy remained silent, staring at her hands. I'm taking them somewhere safe tonight, Ruth told Corbin. Thank you for calling. Many people wouldn't have. Can I check on them? He asked. Ruth hesitated. Then nodded. Call me next week. When it was time to leave, Juliet cried quietly as she slid from the booth. Thank you for letting us eat with you, she whispered. Thank you for not letting her throw us out. Corbin hugged her tightly. Joy brushed her fingers against his hand, the smallest gesture, but it nearly crushed him. He watched as Ruth led them to her car, Juliet looking back and waving through the window. Rory slipped his hand into Corbin's. Are they going to be okay, Dad? Corbin didn't know. But he whispered, I'm going to make sure they are. That night, alone on the porch, Corbin cried. For the girls. For their mother. For Joanna. For all the children who slipped through the cracks. And then he made a decision. The next morning, he called Ruth. I want to know how they're doing. They're in emergency foster care, she said. It's temporary. Can I visit them? He asked. Mr. Dean, she said carefully, you're a stranger. You don't have legal. I know. But they asked me for help. Please. Ruth sighed. I'll see what I can do. 2 days later, Corbin was allowed to visit them at the Child Services office. When Juliet saw him, she ran into his arms. You came back. Of course I did. Joy stood by the door, still silent, but her eyes were brighter. She slowly stepped forward and touched his hand again. They spent an hour together. Corbin brought coloring books and a stuffed elephant Rory had sent for them. As the visit ended, Juliet asked, Are you coming back? Yes, Corbin said. I promise. Over the next 2 weeks, he visited 3 more times. Juliet opened up more on each visit. Joy remained silent but slowly grew more comfortable, offering him drawings and tiny smiles. On the 4th visit, Corbin brought something different, paperwork. He sat across from Ruth. I want to adopt them. She stared at him, stunned. You're a single father. You already have 1 child. This process is long and grueling. And there is no guarantee. I don't care, Corbin said. They've been rejected over and over. Someone needs to fight for them. I will. Ruth studied him, then softened. Why are you doing this? He thought of that night. Juliet's trembling voice. Joy's silence. Rory offering his fries. Joanna's belief that love multiplies, not divides. Because they asked for help, he said. And because I have enough love for 2 more. The next 6 months were brutal. Home inspections. Financial assessments. Psychological evaluations. Court interviews. Doubt and exhaustion. Nights lying awake at 3 a.m., wondering if he was crazy for thinking he could do it. But he visited the girls constantly. Juliet began calling him Mr. Corbin, then Uncle Corbin. Joy began drawing pictures for him. Rory asked every day when his new sisters were coming home. And then something unexpected happened, the community rallied. Brenda, the diner owner who once tried to throw the girls out, wrote a letter praising Corbin's heart. Kelly, the server, wrote one too. His boss, his neighbors, Rory's school principal, even Ruth, all of them submitted letters to the court. The final adoption hearing was set for April 14, 2020. Corbin sat in the courtroom with Rory beside him, Juliet holding his hand, and Joy sitting on his lap. She still hadn't spoken, but she clung to him tightly. Judge Kathleen Morrison reviewed the case. "This is highly unusual," she said. "A single father with a modest income. One child already. The system prefers two-parent households." Corbin felt hope slipping. "But," she continued, "these girls have been failed repeatedly. And through every report, every visit, every evaluation, one thing has been constant: you. 17 letters attest to your character. Their therapist reports extraordinary progress. And I have seen with my own eyes how these children look at you, the way a child looks at their father." Corbin held his breath. "The petition for adoption is granted," Judge Morrison said. "As of this moment, Juliet and Joy are your daughters." The courtroom erupted. Juliet burst into tears of joy. Rory cheered. "I'm grateful for two brave little girls who had the courage to ask a stranger if they could eat with him. Because those 5 words changed everything." Outside, the sky glowed purple and gold, the colors Juliet loved. Inside, 4 hearts beat together. Not broken. Not alone. Whole. And if this story reminds you that kindness still matters, share it with someone who needs it. Because sometimes all it takes is 5 words to change a life. Can we eat with you? The answer should always be yes.